Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's On at Disney Plus. It's time for the weekly live Q&A. So we're live here on YouTube, and it's basically a show that we put together. This is done for our YouTube channel members and also for our patrons. So they have been able to submit questions in advance, and also we'll be taking live questions from those in the live chat. You can also use the super chat function as well, all of which helps support the channel and just kind of keeps all the lights on, etc. And as you can see, we have a couple of lights. Right, so we got lots of questions and stuff today. You can see quite a few people here in the live chat. You can hear me, which is fantastic. So we got Babak, we got Caleb, we got Bubba Trolling, we got Kyle, Knoxwave, Keenan. So big hello to all of you. So yeah, we got lots of questions, so this is pretty cool. It's kind of like the first full week, really, that with the news has kind of kicked back up. Everyone's kind of back to normal after Christmas and stuff. And well, yeah, so let's kick off with the first question. So I have just put a poll up. So if you're watching live, you can join in on the poll. You don't have to be a member or anything like that. So I've asked you, what do you think is going to be the biggest film of 2024? Currently, Deadpool 3 is leading the way, but let us know what you think. Right, let's start off with the main question, the one at the top of the title. Basil says, what do you think Disney needs to do to improve the quality of their future films and the box office to not have a disastrous year like 2023? So no doubt, 2023 was definitely a bad year for Disney at the box office. They really, I'm just going to try and get zoom in a bit. There we go. It was not a good year for Disney. There was a number of box office duds. Obviously, from the Marvel point of view, we had the Marvels, which just tanked. It's a shame because I actually enjoyed that film. I thought that was a lot of fun. I thought that was a good, easygoing superhero movie, but it just didn't hit. It just didn't collect. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, probably my least favorite out of the three of this year's Marvel films. That one didn't do so well. Wish didn't do great, considering that was the big Disney 100. People didn't go see that film, which is a shame. I'll be honest, I was one of them. I haven't seen it. I got to that point, and it was like, nah, I'll just wait. That was kind of it, and that's probably the problem. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny really bombed at the box office. Didn't manage to pull in enough money, considering the cost of it, which is a shame. Because again, I enjoyed that film. I thought that was a lot good. The Haunted Mansion didn't do very well, and I really enjoyed that film, but I'm a big Haunted Mansion fan. If you just look here, I've got some bits from Haunted Mansion. I've got the Haunted Mansion Lego set. I've got some Vinyl-mations. I've got all kinds of stuff. I love the Haunted Mansion. I think it's great. But obviously, not a lot of people did. So yeah, it's just as all. Elemental did all right, $500 million, so that did all right. But generally, overall, the box office for the 2023 wasn't good. Now, I will put this in as something to be aware of. The box office for 2023 wasn't really that hot for a lot of companies. Yes, there were some outliners. The Oppenheimer and Barbie double feature weekend did something crazy and caught people's attention, and it made people go to the cinema. But that kind of became a bit of the Barbieheimer event became something like bigger than it probably should have been had they been released on separate days. Would they have hit $1 billion each? I don't know. I'm not sure. It's definitely, I think they definitely benefited from this fear of missing out thing, and that kind of puts it into a special league where they kind of get a little bit of an asterisk to me. Super Mario Brothers did amazingly well. That really pulled in the audiences. I'm not a huge surprise. Super Mario obviously is a huge franchise, fully well known. He is massive, and this was the first big proper animated movie, so it made sense for that film to do well. Very safe, very easy to go, and it's something to watch. I just thought, no, I haven't actually watched it. It was one of those ones of everyone kind of kept saying it was just there wasn't really much story to it. It just looks like an ad for them. And I love them. I love Mario games. I absolutely love them. So, but I'd rather play Mario. So yeah, I think overall the DC movies all farted in the wind with the box office as they went out with a flop. As the dead fish just flapped around at the end of the year with Aquaman, and yeah. Willy Wonka did all right, 500 million, but like Mission Impossible, Fast and the Furious, all of these big franchises really did just I'm not, yeah, not Mission, yeah, they all just they didn't do very well. So I think there is a problem generally with franchise fatigue. I think there is definitely people have got bored of them playing safe. I think superhero fatigue is very much in something that's happening. I think there has been too many films, too many shows, and audiences have got burnt out. They've got bored of it, and that's what's happened. And now they got to find the next golden goose. I think this year of 2024 is going to be the year of the reset. DC's kind of taken a year off. They've kind of got the Joker out, or Joker 2, but it's a little bit different. Marvel's only got Deadpool 3. And then we got 3 Sony Marvel films, which maybe if they flop hard enough, will probably make Sony kind of rethink their entire plan. Because I feel like those are the 3 movies that are just going to continue this problem of just trying to bleed out as much money from this genre as possible. But I think there's going to be some big changes at Sony. So yeah, so there's that. Now, obviously, if Disney, there are lots of other issues that I definitely think so. And let us know in the comments, what do you think the big problems with Disney's films are? Now, I think franchise fatigue, where they have just overcooked some of these franchises. The big problem as well is budgets. They ballooned with the pandemic due to extra costs in filming them, and I don't think that one gets brought up enough. That people are just, the costs of those films just went up in terms of how much they cost to make, and therefore that had a big impact. But it wouldn't, if they were smaller budgets and they made the same amount of money, they might not have been seen as a failure. The simple truth is, hitting $1 billion is not an automatic thing for a major hit anymore. That is no longer something that's going to continue to work. It's not always going to hit, and that's always going to be a problem, I think, for Disney. And I think that's something that we have to be aware of with that. But yeah, so I think definitely sort of moving forwards, Disney's going to have to try and improve the quality. They're going to have to make better films. They're going to have to do better. They can't just keep churning out mediocre. They can't just keep doing that. Like I said, the budgets are going to have to be smaller. So that means movies might be shorter. There might be less special effects. I think Disney, in some of the studios like Marvel and stuff, got a little bit too carried away with being able to do what they wanted. It didn't really matter because they were the golden child and they could do what they wanted. And they were doing a lot of stuff with CGI and special effects, which they might have been able to have done a lot cheaper with practical effects. I mean, there was a picture of Nick Fury sort of sat, this was for Secret Invasion, and he's there like with this gun and in this room and stuff. And you're sitting there going, well, why on earth was that not filmed in, like, why did he need to have a fake gun that needed then to be touched up? It's like he could have just had, I don't know, just things like that. You just look at it and go, why did they need to spend all that extra time and money when they could have just had a physical prop and just like had it? So there's that. I think the stories have to be better. I think they've, especially like with Marvel and stuff, they've just churned out too much. They got distracted and they weren't as good. They've got to do something with the political system of what's going on currently, especially in the United States. There's no point in sugarcoating it. Disney has alienated a large portion of the US, and they need to regain trust. And the only way they're going to do that is by pulling back on some of the stuff that they're putting into their films. I don't think they're going to completely pull back. I don't think they should. But at the same time, you got to make a movie and you got to appeal to everyone. You don't want to alienate anybody. You should want to put something out there which everyone can enjoy. And I think that's something that's got a little bit, just in general, is just difficult right now. I think this year's going to be tough. I think with everything going on in the US this year, I don't think anything's massive. I think that's going to be difficult. I do think Disney's actually probably made the right decision in really scaling back its releases this year. I mean, obviously the strikes and stuff will help with them doing that. But I actually think that maybe this year is a good time just to kind of go, here's Deadpool, here's Inside Out, we've got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, we've got a few other little movies coming along the way, but we're actually just going to sit this one out. Maybe that's better in the long run. Maybe that is the best way for them to do it. Doesn't make sense from some points of view, but maybe just pulling back a little bit, allowing people to sometimes you have to miss something. So if they take it away a little bit, maybe that might help bring people in. there is a lot less. There is a lot less coming out this year, and I actually think that this might be a good thing, because then Disney are not hitting each other with their own movies, and they can allow to process and promote the ones that they have got out maybe stronger and more better. But some of the stuff with like stories and stuff of new films, they're going to take years to fix. This isn't just going to happen overnight. Now, there does seem to be, I think the 2025 films are much more likely to get sorted, because like Elio is going to be having extra time being developed. A lot of the Marvel films that got pushed back are going to have more. The Star Wars films that they're going to be working on now. 2025 will be better. But I think what they've done with 2024 of just like basically just put out some major titles, some major ones that they've got ready, and just focus on that. I think that might be the best thing for them. Just pull back a little bit. And I think this year is going to be really hard for them, with everything going on in the US. And I think that is going to be something that they really need to be, I think they're probably right in what they're doing. Focus on other stuff, put out things that maybe get less attention, and just try and avoid these things. Quite a few, like Barbara Trolling says, I think Disney need to pull back on certain issues. I think ultimately audiences are telling them and telling all the studios that certain stuff in there that they don't want and that they maybe don't want to see, and the audience ultimately is telling them this, that they want something different. Now I think there is another big issue with the cinema, that going to the cinemas costs a lot more money, and we have all got evolved into watching more at home. We watch stuff more on our big TVs. We do go to the cinema less. There's less need to go to the cinema. It's more expensive when you get there. And the industry has just moved along, and they might never be able to get that 20 to 30% of people that will never watch cinemas. They might not come back. The youngsters coming up underneath might not fall in love with cinema in the same way that we did, because they have got screens all the time, and they've also got, if you've got big screens at home, it's like I haven't got around to it, but I want to watch a couple of movies coming out. We got on Apple TV, you got like Napoleon. I want to watch it, but it's like I can just wait a bit and watch it at home, nice and easy, big screen, big sound bar, sat on my couch with a blanket. Or do I want to go down to an uncomfortable theater and I don't know if the heating's great in there? It's like, I'll just do it. And I think that doesn't get brought into enough, that the cost of going cinema will have put a lot of people off going. Balak says, I think Disney should limit how many movies come out or spread them out so their studios don't compete with each other. This definitely is something I feel they need to, because they were stepping on each other's toes last summer. Now, I can understand in some way that like maybe like Elemental and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny are very different films. But when they had like Guardians of the Galaxy, Little Mermaid, Elemental, and was it the Haunted Mansion and Dial of Destiny all out within like, what was it, about 12 weeks of each other? So you were going to if you went to the cinema in July, you were literally had all those films from Disney to compete with, to the point where they had just, none of them were really kind of, and also people tend to go cinema for that opening weekend in the first few weeks. I think, especially in Indiana Jones and stuff, they were just falling over each other with getting in there. And I think that's definitely, a problem that they need to be aware of. And I think they need to be more focused. Trying to put out so much at once, just they were all over the place. The social media couldn't focus on one thing to focus on, get the PR teams on that one product. And also when you've got all the Disney Plus and the Marvel and the Hulu stuff all coming out at the same time, there was just an influx of stuff. Eleni says, I think the Baldwin shooting productions, they want less guns. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I mean, but at the same time, you don't have to use real ones. They don't, they could use. I think that's the kind of thing of like, I would have assumed that they would be fake anyway. They would just be, plastic, or metal ones that have got nothing in them. But so that's obviously, that could be an issue. Elias says the high budgets. Disney was second place to Universal for worldwide box office, and Universal only won that by a little bit. If budgets were smaller, they would enjoy those earnings more. I think budgets are definitely a key thing. They've got out of hand, and I think a lot of this is, there was some pandemic issues which did put prices up. too much reliance on CGI, maybe making the films too long, and that I think that did. I mean, the Marvels was quite short, but they cut a lot of stuff. But I think Marvel has to get better at like having a budget and maybe not filming a whole load of stuff that they don't need, and then they go back and change it in post. I think they've got to get out of that. But yeah, cheaper movies. I think that's it. I mean, it is a shame. I mean, we love all these big movies, but it's a simple math. You can't be making movies of $200-300 million budgets and then only making $400-500 million on them. It's just you can't do it. It's just not. They have to. If you'd made a movie for 100 or 125 and it made 500 million, great. Because you got to double. Basically, if you have to double the budget, and then that generally would be then like if it would go into like profit. Because say it cost 100 million and it took 200 million at the box office, they would still barely break even because they have to pay the cinemas and all the rest of it. But if they made 300, then they're making profit on that. Then they're making money on merchandise, selling it on digital, renting it, licensing it at a later date. So it's not all just about that opening weekend. Knoxburg says, can't believe tomorrow is the 3rd anniversary of WandaVision since the first MCU Disney Plus show and the start of the multiverse saga. Yes, a long time ago. Keenan saw Indiana Jones in the theaters. Yep, so did I. Watched it again the other week, actually. Caleb says, to answer the question of the headline, what Disney should be doing is focusing on singles and doubles for 20th century and Searchlight in addition to limiting the big budget releases to 2. I don't know about 2 a year. I think 2 a year big budget films is probably not enough. I think 1 Pixar film a year is good. I think 1 Pixar film allows them to be focused. I think 1 Walt Disney animation film. Therefore, you're putting out 2 a year. Very different. They could do that. But yeah, I think Searchlight and 20th Century is really where they could really kind of clear up at the bottom end of the box office. Like, I think Searchlight is great for this stuff of just some of them don't make a lot of money. But they get a lot of prestige, and they also, more importantly, they cost a lot less, so they don't need to make as much. Something like, I don't know, say like Poor Things or something like that. The budgets on those are so much smaller that if that made like 100 million, I don't think it will do. I think it's at like 12 or 15 million, but it actually would make more than Indiana Jones. So it's kind of thing and I think they need to focus on that. I think 20th Century Studios seems to have got lost in the shuffle. I think a lot of it was them making all these movies for Disney Plus and Hulu. Was some of those movies could have, like Prey and No One Will Save Us. They could have been quite good little theatrical releases. Kaylee says, in addition, telling good stories that appeals to everyone works too, since they can provide a positive word of marriage for the long term. Box office profits are short term, but cultural impact is forever. And also as well, you have to make a movie which appeals to the world in some ways. And if you make a good story that appeals to everyone, that will work. Babak says, do you think that Disney might combine some studios to save money? Maybe ABC, Freeform, and 20th Century and Searchlight. So I think on the television side, I am surprised that ABC Signature and 20th Television haven't yet merged. I would have thought that would have been an obvious thing to put them together. Maybe not necessarily get rid of some staff, but maybe allow them to be more focused on like one like studio. Freeform, if that thing makes out 2024, I'll be surprised, because I think if one of the big carriage companies drops it, they ain't got much left. I mean, it feels like very much like that channel is kind of coming to its natural end. As far as 20th Century and Searchlight, I mean, on one hand, I could see why putting them together might, and I'll be honest, I don't think most people can really tell the difference, because it obviously starts with the but I think with Searchlight, it makes sense that they're much lower budget films, and therefore they don't get that 20th thing. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that I think we probably are going to see some kind of things. Babak says, what do you think about the NFL being in advanced talks to buy part of ESPN? So I'm going to do a bit on this tomorrow as well. This one's a bit of a funny one. So yes, apparently they're in talks with Disney to become like partial owners of ESPN. As part of it, that would mean then that NFL media would move in with ESPN. So that would be like Red Zone, NFL Network, some of the other shows that they create. It wouldn't necessarily mean the games, because NFL is still going to want to sell them on to the highest bidder and stuff. But it would mean that ESPN would then have access to a lot more content from NFL, and that would keep them locked in. I think Red Zone definitely would help keep people in. I mean, I watch a bit of NFL Networks because it's free here in the UK, so that's kind of why. But yeah, I don't know. It seems, I mean, I can see why they're doing this to try and lock in some of the big companies so that they can continue to get the news so they can do stuff with them. But there is also that kind of thing of like ESPN News. Can it really be like, I don't know, if they're part owners, are they actually going to report on it properly? You know, there's that element of, if you own it, are you going to report on it as good? I don't know. It kind of, yeah, it feels a bit funny. I see it, but I also, yeah, it feels a bit funny with them doing it. Keenan says, once Hulu and Disney Plus fully integrated, what's going to happen to all those who only subscribe to Hulu, not Disney Plus? So now, obviously, at the minute, we do not know when or even if Disney Plus and Hulu are eventually going to merge. Let's be honest. I mean, I think we all can see that this is probably going to happen at some point. I'm guessing next year. I suspect what they will do is they're going to get it to the point where you have had so many people like crossing over and intertwined and all the rest of it that you're going to get to the point that they will merge the two together. And if you have a Hulu account, you will get transferred into Disney Plus, that kind of thing. Because it's the easy thing that's a lot easier for this transfer than maybe like Max and Discovery is the fact that you're already all using the same user ID. So that is something that is much easier. I mean, they could just go, if they turned around and was like, Hulu is going to cost $9.99 a month. Disney Plus is going to cost $9.99 a month for the ad version, and that includes all of the Hulu stuff. And if you're paying, for $5.99 or $6.99 a month, then you there's a price rise, but they'll probably do some offer of like you can have it cheap for like a year. They'll do something to ease you in, but they'll move most of them over, I imagine, that way. I think it's going to happen. I think it's a case of when rather than if. But yeah, so hopefully we get a little bit more. But yeah, I'm guessing next year on that one. Kelly says, I can't see combining 20th Century and Searchlight since 20th Century is more general entertainment made for mass audiences, while Searchlight is an art house genre. Okay, let's just see. Here we go. Noxwave says, now that Elio got delayed to June 2025, I hope Inside Out does well at the box office. I hope so. I think it's got a good chance. I think if they can do this right and the story's good, I think it's got a good and they'll also be like the big summer movie, and it'll have a bit more attention just on them. Bubbuck says, in the US, theaters have a subscription service for $22 a month. I can see unlimited movies. Do they have this in the UK? I think they have it in some some of the cinemas do have it. My local doesn't, because they literally charge you £5 a ticket. So there's that. But I think some of them do, but my local doesn't do that. But again, that package is good if you go a lot or if you're on your own. But you got to imagine this $22 a month. But if you've got a family of 4, suddenly now you're looking at close to $100. Suddenly, then that's a little bit more of an expense than having Disney Plus and Netflix. Aaliyah says, I love my AMC A-list. Babak, no Regal in my area, or I'd have that too. Keenan says, do you think Disney needs to stop doing live action remakes? Universal's doing the same with How to Train Your Dragon. I do think that Disney have overcooked the live action remakes. I don't have a problem with single ones or the odd. I think, if you were putting out one or two, if you put out one every 3 years, I think you could probably do that. That would probably be all right. But Disney just again went, hello, that made money. We do all of them. And they just went in on just ludicrous amounts of like how many we have had we've had things like we had like Pinocchio and like Peter Pan and Wendy, and I don't think that helped having all the Disney Plus ones, but just meh. They just did way too many. I mean, the fact that they put out Peter Pan and Wendy and The Little Mermaid within a month of each other, that says that's the problem, really. Kyle says Marvel needs for the strips. Oh, Marvel needs the scripts right before production starts. So they obviously do have scripts, and they are working on them. But I think they've got a bit reliant on being able to fix stuff after they filmed it. Seems to be something that they're doing. Babatronic says, "Do you think there will be who do you think the buy will be for Paramount?" I think it's more likely going to be someone picking it up for parts, or someone's going to maybe the Sundance team or someone like that. I don't think Comcast is going to get it. I don't think Warner Brothers is going to go for it. I think someone's going to pick it up. I think we're going to see the closure of Paramount Plus, and I think we're going to see some of the assets being sold off, and Paramount will become a much leaner streaming. So I think it will just be selling off their content to whoever's paying the most, and they're going to do a little bit like a Sony and just do it that way. I think that's the way to go. Ricardo said some Marvel content that was not added to Disney Plus yet. Some are motion comics miniseries called Marvel Knights. It's owned by Disney. I wonder why it's taking time. Some of the it depends on what the rights are for some of these things that they made that they're not necessarily owned by Marvel. I think some like the Lego ones and stuff. They might also not feel the quality's good enough to put on there. Maybe it's residuals. A lot of this kind of weird stuff. Knoxwave says, why Marvel always has reshoots before they release a project? Not sure if Star Wars content have reshoots. So reshoots aren't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, Marvel does plan to do them. They always plan to have them in place. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Maybe you get to the editing thing and you're like, I need a little bit more here. That's fine. Maybe they go like, this scene just isn't working. We need to change this. Sometimes, I can see how you get to that point. Sometimes maybe you film extra stuff and then you don't necessarily need it. Reshoots don't necessarily mean bad, but I think they does feel a little bit along the lines of, we'll just wrap it, get it up, and then we'll put it back, and then we'll go back and fix it afterwards. Yeah, they've got to be more financially responsible. Kelly said, I remember a Marvel fan account on Twitter did say the cost of living going to cinemas is a real issue that shouldn't be. Yeah, I think we all should be much more aware of the fact that going to cinema is a lot more expensive, and it is a luxury and is a treat. I know for a lot of people on like film Twitter and like social media and stuff, sometimes get a little bit lost of the fact that they go to the cinema a lot, and so and then maybe their friends do, and they think everyone does. It's a common thing generally, especially when you're younger. You will go cinema much more when you're younger, and as you get older, you start going less. Yeah, and that's kind of quite typical. But yeah, especially when you got families and couples and stuff, suddenly, yeah, you might have dates and stuff. But yeah, how often you go after that is very, very, very difficult. Right, let's jump into some other questions that we've got. So I'm just going to run through some pre-done questions. So feel free to pop in your comments there. Mammoth says, do you think that Disney will make this year's Academy Awards available on both AMC and Disney Plus at the same time, or will it be next day on Hulu? I think it depends on the contract, because they didn't do it last year. I don't think that they've not on one of the press releases I've seen have they mentioned Hulu or Disney Plus. So I'd imagine they're not doing it this year. Keenan says, is D23 Expo the next live stream on Disney Plus, or do you predict the next live stream will be? I mean, that's in August, so I would hope that there's something before then. There's probably going to be some kind of concert. They'll probably, I would imagine, like the Oscars, they might do like a live stream test that way. They did that one like a couple of years ago. But the thing is with live events and stuff is it is very tricky for them to do. They cost a lot more money. Yeah, it's a lot easier just to record it and then kind of edit it and then put it up rather than doing it live. Yeah, because if you notice, there's not a lot of live events as a whole really anymore. Elliot says, has Disney said anything about Raven's Home coming to an end? There have been 6 seasons so far. I don't think there's anything official yet. I don't think we've heard officially. Well, I'm expecting it to come to an end. I think Disney Channel really needs to go through back to basics and try and work out what audience is interested in, what the kids of today want to watch, what the kids. I think I don't know. They're all over the place. Tim says, what are your predictions for the Disney annual call next month? I was surprised on Wednesday Disney didn't announce ad-supported tier for Australia and New Zealand at the CES event. Yeah, the CES event kind of was a bit of a nothing really came out of that. There, a load of technical mumbo jumbo, which I've kind of read through, and I was like, I don't think anyone really cares about how many ads they get. I don't think they were really focused that much on Australia and New Zealand there, because to be honest, it was an event in Las Vegas, and they'll have only cared really primarily about the US market. So it wouldn't have really. They've said like expansion of international areas, but it's just not the place. Unfortunately, quite often, especially with like major US events, they don't tend to do a lot of international stuff because their audience is less interested. Babak says, what other events should Disney live stream? I think more concerts. I think doing like stuff. I think they should do stuff in the parks, like celebrations and stuff like that, and parades, and make a most of things, like I don't know, like the Super Bowl winners go to Disneyland or Walt Disney World. Maybe you do something with that, or I don't know. I think the trouble is, again, it's just costs. Like how many people are watching to how much money do they bring in? How much that is the issue. I mean, when you think back to like live, like I'm thinking like here in the UK, we used to have, like live Saturday night TV. You used to get a lot more of that. Things like that, obviously the dancing shows, competitions are a lot easier. Things like, maybe like American Idol, or I don't know, is American Idol live in the US? I know I haven't watched it in years. But competitions generally seem to be the ones that are going, but again, it's costs. They're just not spending that money on them. Mama says, do you think that Disney and Neon renegotiated the Hulu deal so their movies could be available on Disney Plus? Well, when do you think so? I was looking at this earlier because I was intrigued because none of the Neon films were available. All I could find was that the deal got made back in 2017. Now, it could be that their deal is about to end, and therefore that's why they're negotiating or anything like that. I don't know. This might just be one of those things of maybe they've not performed as well, and therefore Disney doesn't want to spend any money on them, or the deal's coming to an end, or they're just in negotiations right now, because that could be another thing. But yeah, it was noticeable that I think after a couple of weeks now, we're starting to see how the system's working a little bit better. Tim says, do you think Toy Story 5 will be released next year to mark the anniversary of the first film with Elio set to come out? No, I would think Toy Story 5 is probably another year out, because we've heard nothing of that one. I mean, at least we know that Disney's doing the Frozen films, but Toy Story 5, I think Elio will be the only Pixar, because they have. Yeah, I was doing stuffing on this earlier, and I did a report over the weekend. They're going to be laying some people off and focusing on less projects. So I think Elio is next year is all we've got from Pixar. And it says, I know that Grey's Anatomy will come to Hulu on Disney Plus in March. Will all the seasons come over, or do you have any idea of how many more seasons there will be? Yeah, I think they're all coming over. So all the previous ones will be over. Keenan says, why are some untitled Disney movies for this year? Because according to Wikipedia, there are untitled films for February the 14th, August the 16th, and November the 27th this year. Okay, first off, Wikipedia. It's not, remember, anyone can go in and edit Wikipedia. Now, I do use Wikipedia and stuff for some information and stuff, but it can be changed. You got to be a bit careful with it. As far as November the 27th, that will probably be the animated. That might be the Walt Disney animated film. But these could be Searchlight Pictures films. So that could be what that is. Babak says, do you think there'll be another price rise in 2024 for Disney? Yes, I think. Actually, I think there will be another price rise probably around November, December. But I think it will be. But if it was me, I would be looking at. When you do the merger, you keep the price the same, so you get so you just try and get as many as you can. But I don't know. I think they're going to reach a point where they're not really going to be able to up that price much more. I think they're going to reach a point where they can't do it. But if you're paying $19.99 for Disney Plus with all the Hulu stuff and $9.99 with ads, I don't think they're going to be able to have a lot more room. I think if you start getting into $21, $22, I don't think they can do that until they've established that they've got stuff. I don't know if they can go much higher on those prices. And they're going to want to. The big thing as well is they got to get everyone over from Hulu, and if they put the price up, that might be a problem. But I think the ad one will probably stay quite cheap anyway. Mahmoud says, with the full launch being 2 months away and the mention of heavy advertising before the launch, when will Disney start advertising campaign for the full launch of Hulu on Disney Plus? So they said March. So that could be March the 1st or March the 30th or March the 31st. I think I've done a bit of a brain fart there. So if it's the end of March, suddenly that gives them an extra four weeks. But obviously it's the 1st of March. We're only about 6 weeks away. Now, they did just drop Hulu on Disney Plus without any advertising. So the fact that they did that has totally thrown it off. I don't know. I in some ways it's like, do they do the full unlock one day and then that's when the advertising starts? They could do that of being like, maybe just like Hulu on Disney Plus available now, and that's the kind of, they just go straight into it's out now. You can get it. Do they need to tell you about it in advance? I don't know. I mean, there's apparently going to be maybe like a new bundle. I mean, I don't know how you can do a new bundle. They've already got them, but maybe they change the bundle so you get them both. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do. I did wonder at CES whether or not we might have heard anything. We didn't. But I'm not expecting anything now in January. But who knows? Very, very interesting to see when they do it. Let's have a look. Let's do a poll. So the latest poll, Deadpool 3 won at 48%, which is good. Which is to be honest, I did expect that. So when do you think Hulu on Disney Plus will start advertising? Let's do that. Advertising, got to spell properly. Jan, Feb. Ooh. I cannot type for me today. March and or just when launches. Right. Okay. So that's a new poll. So feel free. Anyone can vote. You don't have to be a member on that one. Elliot says Disney Plus needs to create more originals and not keep doing remakes. What would you like to see as a Disney Plus original? I think we're going to see a lot less. The big thing for me is they have to do it right, and they have to do it. Just churning out generic stuff doesn't necessarily work. And I think the concept of a Disney Plus original, I think it's very tricky now, because is that the best thing for Disney right now? So if you're putting out, so they're putting out Grey's Anatomy and 911, and you've got like The Good Doctor coming up, you've got Station 19. So you've got like 4 or 5 big shows dropping on ABC. They can drop them on Disney. So suddenly then you got 5 high quality dramas dropping on linear and Disney at the same time. Lots of great content there. You've got other shows dropping in. In all honesty, do they need is another big Disney Plus show? If it has to be something different. But if you've got those 4 or 5 drama shows coming out, I don't think you need it. I think you've got enough there with that you could watch. And I think we have to start like looking at this as a whole of going like, and I think it'll be a lot easier once Disney's completely unified Hulu and Disney Plus in the US, where when you've put all of that stuff on there, you don't need, I mean, just looking at like what Hulu gets or Disney Plus now in the US gets every week. I mean, even just this week, most days you're getting 6, 7, 8 new shows. You don't need to be as reliant on a big puller. I think I would say you need like an anchor, a big core thing to get you in each month. But you only need 1 or 2 of those shows a month to be working to get you in as an exclusive. But even then, putting them out on linear makes a lot more sense to kind of get some extra money and so on. I think this whole idea of a Disney Plus original and a Hulu original and a Netflix original and all this lot, I'm just not sure if that works the same way in 2024 as it did in 2020. You want people to watch it. It's like now, Percy Jackson. Yeah, love it on Disney Plus. It's great. But you kind of feel like, would this be good not to put on like on a Saturday night on ABC as well? or on a Wednesday night as well. I mean, I do think they need to get their release schedule better and get it out on streaming, and then you worry about linear separately, rather than this next day, because I hate that thing. Let's jump back now to the live comment. Let's see what we've got here. Matt says, when do you think they'll add ESPN to Disney Plus? So I think this will happen. I think we are going to see the ESPN stuff coming into Disney. I think they're going to focus primarily first off on the Hulu side. But I think if I was looking at them now, I'd be like, I'd like essentially like relaunch Disney, relaunch ESPN Plus. I know they want to go direct to consumer. It's like just churn that into it and use that. And yeah, you want to put it into Disney Plus. You want to be able to, if you fire it up and you've got some sports stuff in there. If you're not interested, then you don't go into the ESPN bit. But I think it's vital that it's going to be there. I think it will be there eventually. I don't know about internationally. I think we could end up with a Hulu hub, an ESPN hub. But yeah, how this is going to work. Like the NFL, for example, a lot of that content from NFL media is locked up on Diaz for 10 years. So they can't make most of that internationally anyway. Carl says, do you think the animated shows like Awaiju and Tiana will release this year, considering they were announced for 2022? I don't think they're coming this year. There's been no talk of them. We've heard nothing about them for a long while. Maybe Awaiju, maybe he's got a better chance. I don't think Tiana's coming this year. I don't know. I'm just not convinced they're coming. Knoxway says, I heard Deadpool 3 will release a trailer during the Super Bowl next month. It would make sense. If you want to put out you want to break the internet, you want to make attention, you want to grab eyeballs. Disney's already done Inside Out 2. It's already done Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It could do Alien, the Alien movie for August. Maybe give us a first peek at that. Could be there. Maybe Musafa, but that's not out till Christmas, so that might be a bit early. Yeah, you can just have Deadpool sat there in front of a flame and just going, "Hi, I'm coming out in July," and that'll be it. There'll be something. They've not finished filming it, but they would have got something in together, and they filmed obviously some of it beforehand. Yeah, they'll have enough there to do maybe a 30-second just tease to kind of get us ready. But yeah, I think Deadpool 3 for the Super Bowl, it just makes so much sense. It does, doesn't it? I can't see any reason why not. We're just looking at the votes. When do you think Hulu on Disney Plus? So 48% of you think it's going to be March, and 16% when it launches, and 38% February. And no one thinks this month. The 976 says the kind of a pity that Comcast wouldn't buy Paramount, because both companies have joint ventures internationally. I think the problem is why that they might struggle to buy it is I think they've probably got their eyes more on Warner Brothers. The trouble is, I think with Paramount is the CBS situation. They'd have to sell it off. Who's going to buy it? All the rest of it. And Disney couldn't. I don't think Disney's in a situation anyway. But it makes it much harder. With Warner Brothers Discovery, it's much easier for them to do it. And I do think Paramount Plus is going to be gone by the end of the year. I picked up a annual subscription for a year for like 30 quid on Boxing Day. I just watched a series we've not seen, Teen Pack or Wolf Pack, and it's like this is so much like Teen Wolf. It's unbelievable. Keenan says, do you think the Frozen films will release at the back-to-back in years? I'm sure Disney has never done that for a theatrical animated film or other studios. I don't know, back-to-back. I personally would say to them, at least give it a year in between, because if they do them too close together, I don't think they should do that. I think they need to give them a year in between. Matt says, how many episodes of Doctor Who come out in the new season? I think it's 8. I think I'm just off the top of my head. I think it's 8. Kelly said, I picked March since it coincides with the Academy Awards weekends and they can push Hulu on Disney Plus during the ABC telecast. Yep, that's good. Barbara Trolling says, do you think the NFL acquired part of ESPN will put every game on ESPN or ESPN Plus? No, because that's a different thing. NFL makes way too much money selling those games as packages, either for Thursday night, Monday. I think Monday night would be very safe, probably, to keep them there. And I think the NFL likes having it on ABC, but selling them to no one single platform can afford to buy all of the NFL shows. That's the problem. I think that's definitely the cost. I think I read earlier today, like Peacock spent like £100+ million of dollars on buying the rights to last night's Chiefs versus the Dolphins game. The amount of money involved in to get all of the games, and I think it would probably be a bit anti-competitive. People like being able to watch on different platforms. Yeah, very different. But I did watch some highlights of that game. It looked freezing. I mean, the breath coming out of them, it looks freezing. And then I watched some highlights of the I think there's the Texas match, and it's like so much different in terms of color. Carl says, speaking of Super Bowl, do you think there'll be a general Disney Plus spot? I wouldn't be surprised if there was a Hulu on Disney Plus spot, but I don't know if they want to spend that money, maybe just on but it would make sense to do something. Matt says, any news on Sister Act 3? Haven't heard anything on that in a when did we last thing we heard? Oh, in the summer, we heard that Whoopi Goldberg went to the Vatican in Italy and met the Pope. And apparently they were planning on doing they were like scouting for, they're going to do some filming at the Vatican. So they have been doing, there is stuff going on. There is definitely stuff going on with that one. The 976 said, watch The Vanishing of SS Willie, one of the wholesome horror parodies of Steamboat Willie, make you forget that mousetrap thing for a while. What is it with, like, the main goes and the first thing everyone just does is horror? It's a little bit like, really? That's the best you've got? That's, whoa, we're gonna be so edgy. We're gonna make a horror version of a classic. It's like, yeah, okay, well done. I just don't. I think, again, they're all, are we going to have this for everyone, like Superman and Batman and Donald? Are we just going to have these, like, generic, like, horror things of, oh, look what we can do? I just don't quite get the thing of it. At least if you're going to do a new Steamboat Willie story and you were going to do something with a bit of originality and do something interesting with it, yeah, I mean, at least Pooh and Honey at the first one, you're like, okay, but yeah, I don't know, it just seems a bit overdone. Knoxwave says, what do you think of the last episode of Percy Jackson? I loved it, and it was amazing to see Edge in the episode since I used to watch him in the WWE back in the days. What do I mean back in the days? He's right now on AEW. Yeah, it was cool. I'll be honest, I did like him as Ares. I thought he was really good. I did enjoy the episode, but I don't know if it was just because, again, Edge is just cool. So I think that's the thing. Caleb says, if NFL does buy a portion of ESPN, it's primarily to give Disney cash flow for more sports acquisitions, as well as to take library access for ESPN Plus. I think there's also benefits from bringing together, like, the sports and the news stuff. They could maybe, like, bring together, like, NFL Network and some of the ESPN stuff. There's some cost synergies there, give them access and stuff. So that's interesting. Ricardo says there are rumors that Disney could be considering moving Thunderbolts to May instead of July, and Fantastic Four premiering in that July. Shouldn't both movies start filming now to get those dates? I wouldn't be at all surprised if Thunderbolts does get bumped back a bit. So therefore, next year it is just, what is it? Captain America and is it Blade, or I don't know. I think they would be smart to literally just slim down a little bit, maybe do 2 releases. Just kind of, we need less. And it's horrible to say because I love Marvel stuff, but I think we need less. It's kind of, I mean, I know we've got like X-Men coming up soon, but the fact now that we've not got any live action Marvel now coming until July, it's actually kind of refreshing. Quite nice to have, like, knowing that that's happening. Matt says, what's a lot of shows being ended or cancelled on ABC? Do you think the fall of 2024 and 25 are going to have some new shows coming out? What are your thoughts? I think a lot of this is the end of some of these deals is because they just got more expensive. I think with, like, some of the shows coming back from, like, Fox, like 911, it's a little bit along the lines of how many do they need? I mean, there are, like, reports and rumors that maybe ABC want to give back the 10 o'clock slot, and therefore maybe that goes to news, and therefore then they're only creating drama series, like they only need like prime time from like 8 till 10, so they could have less. I think a lot of this is just they are making new stuff, they are coming up with things, but in some ways it would make more sense to say, like, I mean, not necessarily like The Bear, but say like Only Murders in the Building or something like that. It would make more sense to utilize that on one night of the week, rather than, yeah, I feel like we are definitely seeing kind of an end of some of those shows because they just got more expensive and there's not enough people watching them. I think they're going to come up with some replacements. There will be some stuff that they try and they bring in, but I think they need a little bit. They're going to be making less. 20th Television can pick up slack and put some things in there, but yeah, it's just less. Just overall. Keenan says, I don't think Paramount Plus will shut down soon. I'm not sure if they announced it's going to shut. Yeah, there's nothing's been announced. It's just the fact that it seems to be a lot of talk about the fact that obviously the Paramount is having problems and they're looking to sell, but also the fact that Paramount Plus can't ramp up enough production and spend enough money to compete with Netflix, Amazon, Disney, and like what, Comcast or anything like that. And therefore, if they were to sell the content, there's again a big problem comes in of how many streaming services can people subscribe to. Paramount Plus is not high on most people's list. I like it. I think it's pretty good. I mean, the price I got for it was a bargain. But yeah, I think that's definitely it. Knoxway said, I found out that Smackdown is now available on Hulu on Disney Plus, where they add the other WWE shows. Yeah, so Smackdown does get added on Saturday, a little bit later than the other shows. It tends to be later in the afternoon, my time, when it gets added. It looks like NXT and Raw, they haven't got the streaming rights put over it because they only did the thing is with Smackdown is that it's a Fox show. It's not the next day stuff for Raw and NXT because it's part of the Fox deal for so when SmackDown, I think they leave Fox in October, so then that will be gone then. And I think we're probably not getting Raw and NXT because it's a short-term deal, and yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Kelly says, I don't see Paramount Plus shutting down this year, but them and Peacock are ripe for consolidation and licensing to Amazon, Apple. I probably disagree on the Peacock because I think the thing with Peacock is if they get hold of Warner Brothers Discovery, suddenly then business is about to pick up because if they merge Max, Peacock, and Discovery Plus together, suddenly then you've got some power. You've got a little bit more, and I think that would be a big impact. I would not be at all surprised if Apple. I could see them maybe dropping out at some point. And that's kind of weird because I've been really enjoying a lot of the Apple shows. Monarch is fantastic, but yeah, I think that these companies, I mean, Amazon are going on a right slice through. They are really cutting back on what they're doing. I think they've all got to the point of like they're all fed up of just burning money. This is not working. Kelly says the streaming deals for Raw and NXT are being negotiated right now. I know because Raw is being negotiated. We don't know where that's going to be going yet in the US. There's talks of it maybe being Amazon, talks of it Warner Brothers. We know SmackDown is moving, I think, to USA Network. NXT is going to CW. And I would imagine whoever the streaming deals are going with, I'd imagine it's going to go with the rest of the WWE Network. I'd imagine. I think Hulu just did a short-term deal just to tide them over. I don't think Disney. Maybe ESPN could go for it, but I don't know. I'm not convinced that they will do. Ricardo says, I'm actually starting to believe that Phase 5 of the MCU will end this year. Deadpool 3 on cinemas and Agatha on Disney Plus. That way, Captain America will be the first Phase 6 production. No, I don't think so, because I think the Thunderbolts is supposed to be the end of Phase 5, and Phase 6 is supposed to start with Fantastic Four. Matt says, why was an episode of Echo in Legends of Marvels? I don't know quite what that means. Babak says, I got Paramount Plus for a year through my Showtime subscription through Hulu. Excited. Good. That's good. Kaylee says the WWE Network rights are separate from weekly TV, and Peacock holds the rights until March 2026. Yeah, that's the key thing. They're all coming up. I just don't. I mean, I think from ESPN, might be a useful thing for them to get the WWE Network onto the ESPN for the direct to consumer. I think that would be a good deal. The 976 says, have you by any chance watched Boy and the Heron, or rather it has arrived in the UK? Too bad Disney no longer distributes Ghibli films. No, I've not seen it. I'll probably see it when it comes out somewhere. Right, I got some more questions. Tim says, do you think it's a good idea that the Tiana series come to Disney Plus as the same day as the opening of the Tiana's Bayou Adventure at Disneyland? Probably not. I don't think it really works. You would take all the attention away from the attraction opening at Disneyland, and I don't think that synergies really would make a lot of difference. Matt says, I see the Marvel shows from Netflix are now on the timeline on Disney Plus, and Echo is now under the Defender series. Will we get a Defenders collection added to Disney Plus? What are your thoughts? Possible. I mean, there's no reason why they wouldn't. Yeah, it would make sense for them to do that. It's nice. I do think it's good that these shows now, they've answered the question and they've just kind of said, look, they're part of the MCU. They are part of it. Because it made no sense that they weren't. Because they reference what happened in New York and they reference other things. And it was just like, and if you're going to use the same actors, you can't, it's like, it was too complicated. Keenan said, I thought it was a good idea for Pixar to re-release the Pixar films in theaters, so they might have a chance to make a comeback. This is a little bit of I would say it's a mix of a money grab just to grab a little bit of extra cash, a little bit of keeping Pixar fans happy, a little bit of keeping the Pixar employees happy that they get this little release. These movies are not going to do much. They're not going to do a lot. You can watch them for free right now on Disney Plus. You ain't going to take your whole family to go see Turning Red. Some people will, but it's not going to be a huge lot. This is more of a little. They're not really advertising because I mean, why would you spend money advertising this? You just put out a few things on social media and just let people go, and you make a little bit of extra money on it. But yeah, I wouldn't expect too much from these. Aaliyah says, is it possible any streams from D23, especially the Honda Center ones, if they would be Premier Access? I don't think they would do Premier Access. I don't think that would work. The whole point of that primarily is to get attention on their projects. So I think it just makes sense. If you're going to stream it to YouTube, you might as well stream it to Disney Plus at the same time. That's the way I look at it. It's kind of that weird thing as well. On one hand, if I'm there, because I'm planning on going, it's like if you're there, you don't. It's that kind of weird thing. If you're there at in an event, you might not necessarily want people to watch it at home, but at the same time, you want people to be able to enjoy it and stuff. So there is that kind of good thing. But there is that kind of weird thing of like, if you are going there in person, you do want to kind of have some kind of reason to, obviously being in the room is great, but if you can watch it all at home, people won't go. Matt says, what streaming service will buy Star Trek if Paramount Plus is so? It depends. I could see Netflix. I could see anyone picking up Star Trek. I was like, I don't think Disney would, but I think that's good. So we've got the last two pre-done questions, and then we'll be live for the remainder of the show. Leon says, will Disney Plus restore some features like Premier Access, but at a discounted rate? It cheapens the industry when people are working for free. Yeah, I think the problem is there's a couple of things there. First off is Premier Access. I don't think it works on Disney Plus. I think it's unnecessary complication. I don't think it helps. I think it confuses people. If you want to watch Wish or the Marvels, you can buy it or rent it from a digital store, iTunes, etc., whatever it is. And that's established. That has been set up for a number of years. I know when I fire up my Apple TV, it will come up and say the big movie is available to buy. That is established and it's separate and it's away from I think when they included it in Disney Plus, I think it was confusing. I think it added unnecessary. People would complain. They didn't want to pay for. I just don't see I don't really see the upside. Yeah, they can make a little bit more money from it. But there's a reason why it hasn't returned, and why they stopped it. I think the idea that it cheapens the industry, I think there is, I can see what you're coming from with the idea of a lot of people expect stuff for free, they expect it cheap, and they don't. I would imagine. I think this is more about the fact that like entertainment. There's a lot of people that don't put any value in entertainment. It's just like, and I think free TV and stuff has just made people just expect a lot of stuff. They don't really want to spend money on it. Connor says, do you think the March's merger will allow Disney to have a worldwide release date for originals? I don't like that North America getting shown, especially the Star stuff, 6 to 8 weeks before everyone else. It is really annoying for us here in like the UK and in Europe, for example, like Death and Other Details. I think we're going to get it maybe in March. We're not getting it at the same time as America and Australia and Canada because we can't understand American. I think, I don't know if it's down to dubbing or subtitles or anything like it. It's extremely annoying that we don't get them at the same time. I think it's a mistake that they do this. I do not understand the logic of why they hold on to this stuff and don't make things a global event. And then they do that, and then Shogun is going to be released at the same time globally. Pick one thing, do it globally, do it well. Much easier on advertising, easy to keep the buzz going. I don't know if sometimes they hold this stuff back for us because they've been experimenting with binge drops of seeing if we watch more of it or less of it. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, it's like we're getting like Black Cake in a couple of weeks here in the UK. We're getting Artful Dodger this week. I don't know. I don't know why it is ludicrous to me of why we're doing it, especially the English speaking shows. Why we can't have them at the same time? It makes no sense. It doesn't. I don't get it. Right. Let's now jump into the live comments. So let's keep going. Matt says, why was the show's Legends of Marvels didn't feature characters from Echo? Oh, studio is at the Studio Legends. Maybe because I don't know. I mean, maybe did they not do a Marvel Studios Legends for Echo? Maybe no. I don't think they did. Yeah, maybe they just felt there wasn't enough there in it Hawkeye, but yeah, it seemed a bit odd that they didn't. Ricardo says the Defenders shows now are canon and MCU, but and still part of its own branch. Let's just say they're their own phase. Yeah, I think put them in their own phase is probably a good idea. Elias says, with the Defenders now canon and rumors at most that will be in Spider-Man 4, is there a possibility that Spider-Man 4 will be rated R? No chance. Too much money. Spider-Man makes way too much money. I could see Daredevil being maybe Kingpin in it, but they're really going to have to scale him back or do something with it. But I don't know. Ricardo says, on its first day, Echo was only added to the Defender section, but not the rest of the MCU. Just yesterday, I saw that Echo is part of the Multiverse saga. Well, yeah, it is still a Phase 5 release. It's not separate. It's not like it's its own separate thing. Keenan says, I think the only reason why they did Premier Access was because of the pandemic, and they should have done this with Pixar too. I think, again, it was all experiments. They were experimenting with all of this stuff, and some of it worked, some of it didn't. And definitely can't argue at the fact of why Walt Disney Animation got the premiere release while Pixar didn't. It seemed a bit funny. And they're paying for it. They're paying for it now. Ricardo says, actually, the Defenders news coincides with the new rumors about the animated show's Eyes of Wakanda saying Iron Fist would appear. It would be crazy if Flynn Jones actually voices that. I don't know if he is. They probably can just put somebody else in. He's probably a lot cheaper. Matt says, I see the UK got a new collection called Award Season. Now, yeah, I did notice, I spotted this yesterday, did an article. I'm not entirely sure if it's just a re-version of the critically acclaimed collection. It did look very similar to that. Knox, Caleb, can you just pop your question in of what your question was? Because I've gone through the list. Sometimes like they get like pulled out but I thought I did everyone's. Knoxwell says, I feel like Disney Plus Premier Access was only made during the pandemic, and films that were enjoyed included Raya and the Last Dragon, Cruella, Black Widow, Jungle Cruise, and while Mulan didn't feel like it. I did do no Mulan. I did get a preview one for that one. Shang-Chi was definitely one that was did they do Shang-Chi? No, Jungle Cruise was the last one. But yeah, I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I'd do it like that. Elias says, is there a chance you get a press pass for D23 so you don't have to worry about getting tickets, or do you have to get tickets first and apply for that next? And then, yeah, so generally, like I'm going to be going to D23 this year. So it's in California. So I actually booked my flight and my accommodation way back when they announced the event. The simple truth is I do not assume I will get press access to anything. I don't assume that I will get anything like that. It's always just a bonus. I will apply to see if I can get it, primarily because it's really useful from the idea of getting like access to like somewhere to be able to go sit and write articles and stuff between, and essentially do work. So that's the kind of so I found that really useful to be able to go and do that. But I don't assume I'm going to get in. So that's always a kind of thing of I will buy my ticket. The other thing as well is, so often with the press stuff, they don't maybe confirm it until sometimes weeks before it. And if I'm flying all the way out to America, I need to plan. I need to have my hotel booked. I need to have accommodation. I need to sort out like, maybe like dog sitting, vacation time. I need to pre-do bits and pieces. There's other things as well, like I need to know I'm going, and it'd be way too stressful and also as well, if I've paid for my flight and accommodation and I didn't get a pass, and then I've got a flight and accommodation and I go there and I can't get in, that would be so. Yeah, it's a kind of weird situation. It's like Star Wars Celebration. I bought a ticket, and then I think they didn't offer as many press. And again, I don't assume it, but I bought a ticket to make sure I could do the best I could. And again, I'll be doing the same with this year's D23. I assume I don't get it. They don't know. Disney doesn't owe it to me. I'm not entitled to it. And it's a bonus if I get it. But I always go with the idea of I'm planning on doing this without, I have to. It's just too stressful. Again, if this was happening like 200, like I'm 50 miles away from me, I could not. I wouldn't have to worry about any of this stuff. It'd be a lot easier because you can make the decision. You could leave it to the last minute. If you're flying halfway across the world and all the rest of it, it would just be way too stressful. I think for me personally, I would find that so stressful. Knoxwell says Marvel Studios Legends doesn't have an episode recap about Marvel. I believe it's because Marvel is a spotlight show. Could be. Matt says, when do you think Hulu will close the app or fast channel? I would imagine next year if they do it, but no word again. Thank you so much, Caleb, for your super chat. I must have missed it because when I go through and move them all into the system, I did see this one. Right. So I read from the Streamable that Disney Plus plans to deliver personalized ads to customers via email whenever they watch Disney Plus. Does that include Hulu content or just Disney Plus? How will that work? So Disney Ads did put out a load of like press stuff, and I have read through of it. I'll be honest, a lot of it didn't make a lot of sense because it's really ad like jargon. But a lot of it, again, is more personalization because they own the tech that they're building everything on. They've got full control over what they're doing. And something like they're doing like a gateway system. And yeah, they're going to be doing a lot more stuff. A lot of this is being built into Disney Plus. Obviously, has been built from the ground up with all of this in mind. I think a lot of this is being pushed onto Disney Plus because it's easier for them to do. Again, and I imagine that with the launch of the new system, it's been built in for the new system, the new Hulu on Disney Plus, kind of when they update it, it's all going to be in there. But yeah, so that's what I'm gathering, that they're getting ready really to kind of level up the ads. I think we're going to be, gateway ads and more personalization, because that's the key thing with advertising. And advertising pays more on personalized data. So if they know that if you are of this age, and where you live, and that you've watched The Great and another show, you might be more interested. They can sell that advertising much easier than when it's just, we want to put an advert on this TV show. So it's very, very tricky with that. But again, thank you so much for the support. Ricardo says, basically, we can say Agent Carter TV show is canon to the MCU because Marvel Studios had some input in season 1. Is it not? Is it not? I thought it was that. I thought that one was in canon. It's to be honest, I think a lot of this stuff is absolutely ridiculous with the way of how they made it complicated that they didn't need to. No, I'm just seeing here. So the timeline order had Agent Carter at number 2. But obviously in timeline order, it's just ridiculous of why they do this. I mean, the Agent Carter TV series is, I mean, it is just ridiculous. It is just silly, isn't it? You make a TV series that is all about a character that you introduced in Captain America, the first Avenger movie. I don't know, it just seems to. And oh yeah, they have the age. Yeah, you're right, Ali. I just spotted that they had the one shot. Matt says, "What do you think of the Star Wars new movie, the Grogu, Mandalorian Grogu?" I think this sounds interesting. I think putting Mando on the big screen, I think is good. Bigger budget, bigger audience. I think they probably can do this a lot cheaper than a Star Wars film. I think this is a smart move to keep people happy. Just do something fun. Just do something fun and get people in. Having watched an episode of The Mandalorian on the big screen at Star Wars Celebration last year, yes, I'm in. The fact that we might lose season 4, I'm not so happy about that, but I think a really good Star Wars film is exactly what we need. And I think it's a bit, I mean, the thing is, it's going to be hard for people to get convinced the fact that this is good. But I think this is the best way for getting a new Marvel or new Star Wars film in there. I think the Rey one, there's lots of issues with that again right now, but I think Mando's a safe bet. Right. Okay, well, on that note, I think that's a good point there. We've reached the end of the questions. So thank you to everyone for putting in your questions. Thank you to everyone in the live stream. So a big thank you to Caleb again for your super chat. Thank you so much. Matt, Aaliyah, you got Ricardo, Knoxwave, you got Matt, Ricardo, Keenan, Aaliyah, the 976, Baba Trolling, Babak, Matt. Thank you so much for your continued support. I'll be back next week with another live Q&A. And on that note, guys, keep a lookout for new videos throughout the week, and I shall see you guys soon. Laters.